this is beyond my control. Can we first admit that things are beyond our control and we need to give them to God? Because if we're unable to do that, the rest of this isn't really going to make sense. Because then you can't be patient and you can't endure because you're still holding on to it. If you're unwilling to let go of it, then your patience and your endurance is all on you, and it's all you're just self-sabotaging. You're like, why is nothing happening? Because God's over here like, give it to me. Welcome in today to the Revived Podcast. I am so thankful that you're joining us. It's actually a big episode because our book has officially been announced that it's out, Reviving Fatherhood, Guiding Every Dad from First Steps to Lasting Legacy. If you want, go to Amazon and type in Reviving Fatherhood, and it'll pop right up for you. You can also just Google it, and you'll either be taken to our website or to Amazon. But the reviews are pouring in stellar, 5 stars through 40 plus reviews already. And my favorite, and over 100 copies are out already too, which is awesome. One of the coolest things about this is regardless of how many sales I make or how many sales Revived makes, it's all about the impact of, is one father's life being impacted positively for his family, his spouse, and everything, and most importantly, his relationship with God. If you're new to the podcast or what we talk about here, we talk about reclaiming your identity and redefining the way you live, your culture. And that is all revived through Jesus. See, following Jesus isn't just a prayer to ask him to be in your heart. It's a prayer to be like, take over my life. Let me now walk into the kingdom that you offer and become a citizen of heaven. If you're a citizen and you go to another country, they have rules and laws, and there's a certain way that you behave within the culture. Same thing with the kingdom of heaven. There is a way that Jesus teaches is us how to walk in discipleship, how to walk in the kingdom of heaven, and what that looks like. We've went through the Sermon on the Mount. We go through all these different materials here in the Bible and give us little bits and pieces every week and every time that I post an episode about what does this practically look like. If you buy the book Reviving Fatherhood, you'll kind of see this more just geared straight to fatherhood. But one of the cool things is we have a lot of reviews from wives, spouses, and moms. And so that's really encouraging. So it's not just a dad book, but Father's Day is coming up. Go get it. It's out. What I wanted to talk to today is about a theme in life. Me and my family, we're going through what every family goes through in life, and that is you have seasons of up and down. Really, on the outside looking in, I would say life is going very well. We have the book coming out. We are doing well at work. We have jobs. We have food on our table. We have healthy kids. We're not dealing with sicknesses and loss and everything. But at the same time, amongst all that, you can also be going through something spiritual, some spiritual testing or trials, or just you feel the weight and heaviness of life when it comes to maybe decisions that you're either waiting on God for or you're taking on yourself. We've talked about this before, about making sure that we're in alignment with God in the way we're living our lives before we decide to really accuse him and throw our fingers at him saying, hey, why isn't there any change in my life? And God's like, I'm trying to show you, you're just unwilling to change your life. We talked about that in a different episode. But today I want to focus on the key word of endurance and perseverance. I'm going to refer to our book, but we're going to start in the Bible today. I talk about this in the book for dads in, I think, chapter 7. There's a piece in there in chapter 7 talking about perseverance and endurance and going through the hardship of life. So stay tuned. I'll share an excerpt from that in a few minutes here. But in regard to our family, I'll share some more details, but we're in one of those seasons where we know where God wants us to go. And it seems that we're in a season of patience and endurance and wondering, are we ever going to get there? Is it ever going to be on the other side? And sometimes it's hard just to sit there, and it's hard to sit in that and wonder, is it ever going to come? Is that job going to come? Is that career path going to change? Are the finances finally going to be adjusted so I feel like I have freedom? All these things are questions that we all deal with and we all wrestle with as humans and families. And so before I get started and diving into our family and our situation going on and kind of bits and pieces of that story, I want to start with a fun story that I got from one of my kids. I won't say which kid, but one of my kids, they are really in the phase of learning that they can be wrong. And it's a fun place to be, but it's also interesting to teach kids that they can be wrong. And so this child, we decided last Sunday or a couple Sundays ago, we're going to plant all the seeds in the garden and the flower beds, and it was a wonderful time. So one of the important thing that we planted in particular is we got our flower pot, an orange little flower pot. We put all these little seeds in there for these little flowers. And we stuck the flower pot, put it on the table, and our kid helped us do it all. Actually, all the kids helped, not just this one. The next day, we did some more planting. We went to the garden and we put radishes all in the garden and put in our pepper plants, not potato plants. We did potatoes last year. That was fun. We put all of our plants in for the garden, and so we had 2 back-to-back days of planting. And then this child and all the kids went to get a haircut. And during that ride, apparently my wife said she had a very fun conversation trying to explain that we planted the seeds yesterday, we planted the vegetables today. So my wife comes home and she says, "Hey, can you please tell our children which day we planted the little flower pot?" And I was like, "Oh, we did the flower pot yesterday." And my child was not having it. They were so upset, tears, frustration, and anger that no, we were wrong. Parents were wrong. Parents did not know what they were talking about. We were completely wrong that we planted the flower pot yesterday and the vegetables today. We did it all today. And in my mind, I'm watching this situation go down, and I'm like, I don't even know how to, this as parents, you're like looking at your kid, and you're like, I don't even know how to handle this situation right now. How do I handle someone breaking down about something that's not even true? And I'm like, oh my goodness, this is like so hard and so frustrating. So I'm talking to my child, and I'm like, okay, child, repeat after me. These are 3 key words and one key phrase that will take you very far in life, and you should learn this sooner rather than later, and it's gonna go really far. So repeat after me. I was wrong. And then there was some silence, and then my child goes, right. And I'm like, oh bother. I shook my hands on my face. I'm like, oh, I don't even know. So it's like I said to say, I was wrong, I was right. And like even there was just like another instance of how do you teach humility, maybe? I don't know, but the the whole situation of trying to figure that out and walk that child through that situation is like it's still ongoing. I think the child moved on past which day it was, and that in fact the seeds are just planted and that's all that matters. But it really got me thinking. And it really challenged me, and I'm going to challenge you in this episode. Can we take maybe everything we know to be right and true, and can we just put it on the side for a minute? Kind of like saying I was wrong. But maybe you don't have to say I was wrong, but if you need to, I encourage you to say that. But maybe just say I don't know. So, because I want us to approach every time we crack open the Bible and every time we crack open the Word of God, like, can we approach it with, okay, I grew up this way with understanding God to be like this and understanding the words to be like this. But maybe I don't have the whole picture. Maybe it's completely wrong. Maybe there's some things I need to add. So can we stick the idea of endurance and patience and trials and temptations out in front of us? Can we just hold it loosely and see what God has for us today as we crack open the book of James here in just a minute? And I think if we do that, we will learn something. I always want to encourage you for anything I read or say, go spend time in the word yourself, understand the word yourself, because there's always a chance I say something. It's like, oh, he said this and it sounded very wrong. And I'm like, well, I know I say things right and wrong, but if you're not spending time in the word yourself, getting to know Jesus for yourself and just taking the words and opinions of other people, how are you going to actually have that relationship with him yourself? That is the most important part of this podcast, is me encouraging you to go read the Bible for yourself and get to know God for yourself. Go use resources. Absolutely. Use this podcast, use our platform, use other people's podcasts and platforms. I hope you do. Use them all. But make sure at the end of the day, you have the Bible, and you're spending time praying and seeking God and saying, God, show me and reveal to me the truth of this topic. This guy said this, and it just sounded so wrong. And turns out I was wrong. I'm willing to say a percentage, I don't know, 20% too high, 15%, 10% of what I say could possibly be wrong. But maybe if I say that, you're going to be more inclined to go read for yourself. It's a thought. Anyway, so all that aside, let's go ahead and crack open James today. And then, so this reading today comes from James 1. It's called Faith and Endurance. We're going to start going through the book of James, and I realize in my studies, I love the Sermon on the Mount. I absolutely do. You can go back and listen to the Sermon on the Mount series, and you'll see how much I love it. Excuse me. So we did Luke, we did Matthew, we did Luke's account of the Sermon on the Mount, we did Matthew's account of the Sermon on the Mount. James has a lot of Sermon on the Mount to it. He's not recapping the Sermon on the Mount like the other two did, but his themes are all throughout the book. I thought that was fascinating in my study, so I'm like, you know what? It's Sermon on the Mount. We're going to go through it. So buckle up. We're going through another Sermon on the Mount. But hey, I can never complain because discipleship is the way a ship. I don't know. Forgot I said that. Move on. All right, let's go ahead and we'll start at verse 2. So, dear brothers and sisters, when troubles of any kind come your way, consider an opportunity for great joy. For you know that when your faith is tested, your endurance has a chance to grow. So let it grow, for when your endurance is fully developed, you will be perfect and complete, needing nothing. If you need wisdom, ask our generous God, and he will give it to you. He will not rebuke you for asking. But when you ask him, be sure that your faith is in God alone. Do not waver, for a person with divided loyalty is as unsettled as a wave of the sea and is blown and tossed by the wind. Such people should not expect to receive anything from the Lord. Their loyalty is divided between God and the world, and they are unstable in everything they do. Believers who are poor have something to boast about, for God has honored them. And those who are rich should boast that God has humbled them. They will fade away like a little flower in the field. The hot sun rises and the grass withers. The little flower droops and falls and its beauty fades. In the same way, the rich will fade away with all their achievements. God blesses those who patiently endure testing and temptation. So this is the part I really want to spend time on. And so listen closely. Verse 12. God blesses those who patiently endure testing and temptation. Afterward, they will receive the crown of life that God had promised to those who love him. And remember, when you are being tempted, do not say, God is tempting me. God is never tempted to do wrong, and he never tempts anyone else. Temptation comes from our own desires, which entice us and drag us away. These desires give birth to sinful actions, and when sin is allowed to grow, it gives birth to death. So don't be misled, my dear brothers and sisters. Whatever is good and perfect is a gift coming to us from God our Father, who created all the lights in the heavens. He never changes or casts a shifting shadow. He chose to give birth to us by giving us his true word, and we, out of all creation, became his prized possession. So there's a couple pieces in this verse that I wanted to highlight. And he talked about how uh, that when your faith is tested, your endurance has a chance to grow. Like almost like endurance is a muscle. And when you let it grow, it becomes fully developed and you'll be complete and need nothing. I don't know if we'll ever get to a point in our lives where we'll have that muscle fully developed until we get to heaven, but who knows? Maybe James knows something we don't. And then down here, God blesses those who patiently endure tempting and temptation. Testing and temptation, not tempting and temptation, too repetitive. So in our family life and kind of what's going on over here is we released the book and we're just kind of just sitting in this place of James is going to school kind of far away from where we live. And we're like, God, like we know you have us moving somewhere and we just don't know where or when. We know you have Kelly going through a career shift. She really wants to get into counseling and like she is so gifted in that. And I know we both know it's from God for her to pursue that direction. But right now, it almost seems like through like just her experiences, just in the patient waiting and enduring, that it's almost frustrating. Like, why do I have these things on my heart? Why is this direction given to me? Let's just say moving and Kelly's career. And why are these things so evident that they're going to happen and they're in our lives and this is the direction we're looking at, but nothing is moving. Nothing is changing. Yes, we all know those great sermons where just like God's moving in the background. There's some great songs about that. God's always moving. Hands down, absolutely. But that's not the focus of today's talk. Today's talk about is what do you do when you sit there? And being in alignment, not living in sin and being in alignment with God says is right and true. And so like, okay, God, everything's lined up. Okay. As far as I know, like I'm cutting sin out of my life. I'm pursuing you. Everything and just from what I can tell, this is the way that you should be walking as a Christian. And just nothing's changing in that direction that is put on your heart to move. Who feels like that? Who feels like you're a runner and you're going nowhere? Like you're on a treadmill. You're actually not out on the path, and you can see where you're going to end up, probably on the beautiful foothills of Golden, but you're on a treadmill and you're just running, 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 and you see the foothills of Golden from your window, but you're never getting closer. You're like, I'd much rather be running on a path and approaching the foothills of Golden where it's really beautiful. Like that's what it feels like to me. When you sit in patient endurance, it's almost like you're on this treadmill where you're just like, I am tired. And you're running, you're running, you're running, you're moving, you know where you're supposed to go. And you're just like, I'm not getting there. And I'm exhausted of waiting. I'm exhausted of enduring. So that's why I like this when he says this. God blesses those who patiently endure testing and temptation. They will receive the crown of life God has promised to those who love him. Perhaps as much as we want to say we're in control of our lives, we're not. As much as we want to say our prayers and everything are, God, I want to be here, so let's start moving there. And we're just like, oh, sweet. Like everyone on social media is like, here's goal setting, coaching, inspiration, all this stuff, motivation, and that's great. But it creates this way of thinking where you're very systematic. A is going to happen, B is going to happen, C is going to happen, D is going to happen. It's everywhere in life. But when it comes to pursuing something and finding yourself on a treadmill instead of the actual path and just enduring that's you can't really. What do you do with that when the culture is so systematic of like, oh, you're not on the trail, just get off the treadmill, get on the trail. You're like, I wish it was that simple. I wish I could give you a very profound episode today about this is how you get off the treadmill and this is how you get onto the path. All I have for you today is to be patient. All I have for you today is endure, persevere, press through. Because when God talks about his blessings being on the other end of that, do you really trust it? Because I'm looking at our situation with moving and my wife's career and figuring out going to school and paying for school is a whole nother thing. And I know that God is going to take care of it when he's supposed to take care of it. And I know there's time frames on these too, which gets a little scary. But can I really look at my faith and be like, God, you are my father. And if you're a good father, like you say you are, I know just like my son and my daughters bring things to me, I will take care of things and I'll tell them, be patient. Endure. If you ever, perfect example, like you're doing a project for your kid, they bring you the glue. It's like, hey, dad, fix this. And I'm like, okay, it's going to take some time, so be patient. And you just look at them and they're like, "Rrr." Like they get, like you could see they're like dying inside of just like, why is it taking you so long? And you're like, chill, it's been like 5 minutes. But you look at them and you can see them like they're like enduring the patience. You ever see that in your kids when you're just like fixing a little wood glue project? Like they are sitting there staring at you do what you need to do. Nothing is moving. And you can just see them sitting there and enduring, waiting for the moment. Okay, when do I join in on this to get this fixed and have this back and have this joy set before me, this blessing of my unbroken toy? And I really love translating those thoughts to how our relationship with God. Because if you know we have these things in front of us, we can hand them to God and say, okay, God, this is beyond my control. Can we first admit that things are beyond our control and we need to give them to God? Because if we're unable to do that, the rest of this isn't really going to make sense. Because then you can't be patient and you can't endure because you're still holding on to it. If you're unwilling to let go of it, then your patience and your endurance is all on you and it's all you're just self-sabotaging. You're like, why is nothing happening? Because God's over here like, give it to me. So give the career, give the moving, be like, okay, God, this is yours to worry about now. You said you're a good father, and I can give stuff to my father that I don't know how to solve and I don't know how to take care of. But what I am going to do is I'm going to be patient and I'm going to endure and I'm going to wait for when for my piece to be involved, because we know we're not just going to sit here on our butts and everything's going to happen. No, it's going to take action, but we need guidance. We just read in James, it says, ask for wisdom and the generous God will give it to you. So right now we're sitting in a place of patience and praying for wisdom. Every day I'm like, okay, God, this is what we have. This is our timeline. This is what I'm looking at from my perspective. Give me wisdom of when to move. When do I need to start taking my steps? Because I know you're putting the glue together right now on the broken piece of wood, and you're putting it together and you're letting it rest, you're letting it sit, you're letting it get together. And at the right time, you're going to hand it back to me so I can go continue on with it. So now we're going to jump over into reviving fatherhood. So in chapter 7, like I said, page 86 in the book, I have this piece, this whole chapter about becoming a man. Like, what is a man? Like, what is a man at its core? And this is going to be the last little bit. It's going to start. I reference this guy named Rittenbaugh, who did a fantastic job of breaking down some stuff. I'm not going to spoil the whole thing because you got to get the book and read chapter 7 for yourself. But I'm going to start at page 86, 87, and 88. But just listen to this. This is amazing. This is I quote this guy, but this is all my words from the book. So, what the heck does preserve mean? The best analogy I can think of, it's like a really good jam or jelly, which was preserved perfectly for your morning toast and your cup of coffee. I love that. Just fresh fruit. Beautiful. Anyway. So this jam has had so much good flavor and texture that only got better after sitting for a while, perfectly preserved. It's an interesting thought, isn't it? When we apply to our responsibilities. The Cambridge Dictionary defines preserve, to keep something as it is, especially in order to prevent it from decaying or to protect it from being damaged or destroyed. Now that's good. Preserving is the summary of bringing your responsibilities through a finishing process, watching over, guarding, protecting them as we are helping move our masterpieces into the forms that God has ultimately designed for them. We must learn to preserve them on the way. That's like our family and our wife. By the book, you'll get the context. There is beauty to be found in all of God's creation. The responsibilities in our realm were created by God and thus are beautiful. We get to apply this preservation to these beautiful wonders that God has blessed us with. Work is good and will be the way in which we get to preserve the beauty of what we have been given. The words preserve and persevere seem very similar to me. So this is the tie-in right here. How often are we going to get tired of doing the work? If you're like me, a lot, but we can't quit. We must persevere in order to preserve. I started praying a lot more for perseverance over perfection recently because I noticed I am not, like, I could care less that I can't do things right, but I need the strength to keep going and the strength to keep working. Romans chapter 5 talks about how perseverance produces character and character produces hope, and that hope is found in Jesus. So, what is it to be a man? As an easy definition as I can think of this, a man is one who perseveres to work his responsibilities. I have seen so many good men give up on perseverance. After all, life takes a toll. They started off so well in their marriage and their fatherhood, but as the adversity stacked up, blow after blow, struck like a heavyweight fight, they just did not have it to get back in the fight. That is why it is so important to have Jesus at the center of your life and your strength. This is why it is so important to be training physically and spiritually for the battle that we are in. You never know what fight will show up on your doorstep, but you have to be ready. However, you can only rely on yourself so much, and you cannot be a man without God. Adam did not rely only on himself, and he would not exist without God. So why do we think it's any different for us? God created Adam. That's why he doesn't exist without him. So I really like that of patient endurance and perseverance and perfection. We got all these big words, and we have this like analogy of waiting and getting in the game. And I just want to encourage you with this, as I would encourage myself. Can I just be patient, and can I just endure? Keep seeking after God, asking for wisdom, asking for guidance. But can I just not lose focus that it is good to be patient? The culture runs 1,000 miles an hour. The culture around us is just slamming us with staying busy and doing things, and it is painful and it is hard when you look at your life and you're like, things aren't being delivered on my doorstep instantly. I can't just stream my show right now when it comes to life, but that's not how life ever worked. Patient endurance is important. It's almost like rest. Can you have these thoughts, these desires, these goals, or whatever season you find yourself in? Maybe you need less fixing, less achieving, more resting, and knowing that picture your father sitting there, loving eyes, smiling at you, holding your problem, and just saying, sit next to me. And just like a little kid, he can see it in your eyes of, oh, this is so hard for him right now just to be patient and to endure, but I got to do my thing first. And just like I look at my little kids when they are waiting for me to do something, these eyes of, are you done yet? Are you done yet? But you can just see it in them. And your Heavenly Father wants a relationship with you. And as He's teaching me, can I just sit with Him? I want to just sit with Him, but I'm so distracted of like, are you done yet? Are you done yet? Are you done yet? And God's just been reminding me, can you just rest? Can you just sit? I will take care of it, and just trust Him to. And I just love that picture of me sitting next to God just holding my problem, whether it's like tragic and He's like, I'm taking care of the tragedy while you're in the comfort of your Father's arm, instead of just getting through it in the emotion and that feeling of that tragedy. Or like us, and you're trying to attain a next level of something in our lives. Can we the comfort and the joy in life to just have your Father's arm around you, comforting you through whatever you might be going through while working on your problem, that is a good place to find yourself in. And I don't think we spend enough time dwelling in sitting, resting, not busying ourselves when there's this thing in our lives. That's why I think James is onto something. He says, like, blessed are you when you sit and you patiently endure. Because when you're sitting with your generous Father, He gives you life. It's just, that is the best place you can find yourself in. Don't let these things become distractions that have you take your focus and your eyes off of God. Give them to your Father, and then just sit with Him. Oh, I just picture myself sitting there. And it is a comfort. And you look at the grand scheme of things in life, and you're like, you know what? All of that will come. You know it will. Everything you're looking for and searching for, it will come. But for now, you're just like, I'm just going to sit with my Father instead. It might be days, it might be months or years. But in that, I get to sit and I get to wait. And I will be okay. It's like Paul says, it's like, even if I die, good for me. Because if I die, I'm in the presence of my Father. So wherever you find yourself in, that's the mentality we should have. Rest with God. He's handling your problems if you give it to Him. And then know that it's all going away. It's all coming. It's all in His hands, and you're in His arms. Well, everybody, that's all I got today for you on the Revived Podcast. I really hope you go get our book on Amazon. Thank you for joining us today. I hope you join us next time for working through the book of James and how that kind of looks like with the Sermon on the Mount. I'm so excited, and hope you guys have a great week, great few weeks, whenever I decide to produce another episode. So take care. Cheers.